So my name is Scott Hanselman, and this is a .NET Framework overview. I'm a program manager at Microsoft, and my boss is sitting over there, and my peers are sitting next to him. Notice how they sat next to him? They're kissing up. And we work on the sites ASP.NET, Serverlite.NET, IIS.NET, and WindowsClient.Net. So if you visited those sites, the guy that runs them is there, and the guys that make the content are here and there. So that's a good thing. I hope you enjoy those sites and check them out. We'll talk about them a little bit more in a second. Applications for babies. The goal of this session, why did we come to this session? It is to talk about .NET 3.0, to talk about .NET 4.0, and see what's useful in each. So we're going to have some today and some tomorrow, some futures and some past. We're going to see how things fit together, and we're going to try to make, hopefully, an argument that even though things feel complicated, they're a little less complicated than maybe you think they are. My goal is to make things as clear as possible. That's why I said eschew obfuscation, because I thought that was the most precise way that I could say that, and hopefully edutain you. One thing that's very important about this particular talk is that I've got this little guy in the corner here, sessions with deeper detail. So whether this session has happened in the past or the future, most have happened in the future, I'll be putting codes for sessions where you can get more information. I've got about 9 hours of content, and I've got 75 minutes to do it. So like a demo is gone. I can't do a demo now because I just told you that sentence. That's how much time we have. Write these codes down. Go to sessions.microsoftpdc.com. Just type the session number in, hit enter, and it'll show you that session. And you'll be able to watch all these sessions, of course, tomorrow or whenever they happen, even if they happen online. This is the face of pure evil. This is my son, Tabo, and he has destroyed 3 computers and 5 keyboards. But he's so cute. The little Goetia Punim. So before I start my demos, this is the Works on My Machine seal of approval. So in case it's unclear that some of these demos may in fact not work on your machine, they work on mine. So I wrote an application for Tabo called Baby Smash. So I'm going to just show you that because isn't it nice to get into demos really quickly. Switch over to the demo machine, launch up Firefox, and I go to babysmash.com. It's shocking that it was available. You go to babysmash.com, you click on the downloads link up at the top here, and you get the option to download Baby Smash, and I can say launch via click once. Now notice that I'm in Firefox, so I'm running this thing from Firefox, and click once works in Firefox. .NET 3.5 SP1. If you didn't know, now you know. That's a good thing. We'll hit install, and then Baby Smash is going to come down fast, fast, fast over our ComNet PDC network. It's about a meg. Click once would figure out whether this person had the .NET Framework on their machine and would install it if they didn't. This is possible in Firefox by putting in a Firefox add-in. So when you install the .NET Framework 3.5, there's a XPI that's installed automatically. Baby Smash comes up.
Baby Smash!
What'd you say?
Baby Smash.
Baby Smash, right?
So the baby gets to smash on this. I also put in some speech text-to-speech stuff. And Tabo will slam on this thing and say A, B, red, square, blue, green clovers, Lucky Charms. And it locks up. You're clapping for a full-screen application that dances and goes like this. Thank you very much. Hang on. Sir, over there, clap. Clap some more, brother. Clap some more. Hey, wow, that was really complicated.
Red hexagon, yellow heart, pink trapeze, rectangle,
bit of a queuing problem there, but
blue heart, tan trapezoid, gray hexagon,
just a code issue. I'll work on that.
Blue start, pink
This
heart.
application goes full screen and then locks the keyboard. So it's actually a WPF application, but it does some p invoke, and it keeps the baby from trying to delete your files, and generally kind of destroys the world. And Tabo gets a kick out of it, and then you can have a secret keystroke to go into here. You can do mouse drawing, and you can do transparent background. You can change the fonts. That's the only public domain music that I could find. So I hit Alt F4 to get out of there. So I'm a micro ISV. Okay? I'm a micro ISV, and I have this thing called Baby Smash, and there's 20, 30,000 people play it. It's not a particularly impressive number, but it's an easy-to-install application. It looks neat, and it does some cool stuff. It's got lots of hardware rendering, and it's transparent. And I'm working on ways to make this better, but ultimately I'm a micro ISV. I don't sell it, but this is the kind of the example that we're going to try to use here. Now, these guys, speaking of evil, these guys, do you know these guys? Dan Fernandez, Brian Keller, they are on the This Week in Channel 9 show. Anybody watch Channel 9? You guys like Channel 9? Right? They have a TV show. It's This Week in Channel 9, and they go around the net. So this one, that one, what is it we call it? That one says, hey, go up to feedback.babysmash.com, my feedback site, and I want you to suggest a feature. He's telling this to his audience of millions. Massively multiplayer online Baby Smash. So I didn't know this. And I see this this feature start going up the thing. It's like 600 people demand a Baby Smash co-op edition. They want Baby Smash Xbox Live. They want baby clans. They want baby versus baby. And I'm like, oh my God, is this what parents want? I had no idea. Went on the show later. So I'm like, well, okay. I'll build it, because baby versus baby, I mean, that's my life right there. They're violent little beasts. So I figured I'm going to go and build World of Babycraft, for the horde. Sure. This is what I'm thinking, I'm going to write an MMORPGBS.net. I'm going to do it in .NET because the .NET framework is so simple. And I've made a diagram to express to you just really how simple the .NET framework is and how easy it is for you to really understand. Well, it's actually a little simpler than that. What I'm going to try to build, what I've built, is a Baby Smash ecosystem as a micro ISV. I've got Baby Smash Client. We also need Baby Smash Web. We need Baby Smash Mobile. We need Baby Smash Big Ass Table. We also need a Baby Smash service, right? Baby Smash on the back end, reporting and all that kind of stuff. So we'll use WPF, we'll use Silverlight, we'll use WinMobile, we'll use a Surface, we'll use ASP.NET, we'll use ADO.NET. We'll use as much of the .NET framework as we possibly can because it would make a really good talk. This is what I'm thinking at the point. So here is actually a diagram that is pretty cool, and you can go and get these. There's a box right there as you walk out the door. This is a nice poster or placemat for your babies. This is the naughty mat, so the baby, just don't leave the .NET Framework universe, baby, because that's where you've been very naughty. Now, this diagram is actually a little complicated, too, but of course it's meant to be a poster. The way I like to think about this is like this. Now, a lot of people say that there's this crush of stuff coming from Microsoft. There's too much stuff. I can't handle it. And I'm starting to realize that I thought Microsoft was like a really complicated restaurant whose menu kept getting bigger. It's really a food court. And like the food court feels really overwhelming, and then it's like, oh, Indian food's here. I get a little Indian food, Oh, and I can also get tacos at the food court, It's a bunch of smaller companies that are putting out things that all integrate together. You've got Phil and the guys doing MVC. You've got the WPF folks. You've got Entity Framework and Astoria, and everyone's kind of working together in this big food court. And here are some of the sections of this. I've just taken the entire universe, and now I'm calling it a food court. So I know that analogy doesn't really work, but I like it because I like to eat at the food court. So these sections here, I'm going to talk about one at a time, and we're going to see if we can go through as many demos as possible. Oh, and you know what I didn't do was start the little timer program that I made the big deal out of going to get. So how many minutes are left right now? About 64. So we'll do that, and then the people who are watching this, the 20,000 people who are going to download this later are like, what? What was that? That wasn't organized. Why is he talking to himself? How can he let them know he has no inner monologue? One of the neat things about WPF that was really cool while I was writing Baby Smash was the notion that a developer doesn't equal a designer. And I know that this is one of those stories that the Microsoft guys tell you, and they say, yeah, and you take the XAML and you give it to the designer. I totally didn't believe it. But the separation is really, really clean. I'm going to show you an example of where I created something and then gave it to a designer. I'll talk a little bit about data binding, and then how hard it was or not hard to move from WPF to Surface. We saw how deployment can be really easy with Click Once and now with Firefox. It can be even easier with .NET Framework 3.5 SP1 because of the client profile, which is a tinier version of the framework. So I can get Baby Smash on a machine, rather than downloading 50 or 60 megs of the framework, I can get down with 25 megs, which is in line with other virtual machines like Java. And then also I said, well, I got to get Silverlight 2 in there too. and Silverlight Mobile. But all of this is based on one thing. I don't know any of these technologies. Right? I know C#, I know a little VB, I'm learning XAML. This seemed kind of like a daunting thing. But I know that I feel good about my C# skills, and I understand the base class library. Would I be able to pull that off? This is the options dialog as I initially envisioned it. And you can see that my designer touch was the glow right there, which I thought was pretty awesome. I was really impressed with my ability to pull this together, and I'm not saying that to joke. I felt good about this dialog. So I gave this to one of the guys at Kenchango, a guy named Felix Cork, who is an actual designer. And by actual designer, I mean he wears like black turtlenecks and has like stylish shoes with heels. Felix, he's English, what can you do? Felix is insanely talented. This was like, Felix is Johnny on the spot. I send him something and it comes back. I go, he says lozenge. That's the relationship that I have with Felix. I said, hey, could you just take a look? I'm not paying him, right? He's just a guy I know and he's my friend. Hey, take a look at this XAML. Okay, I'll take a look. Boom. Oh, snap. Oh my God, Felix. He did this in like an hour and a half. And he's like, and of course what the designer says, oh, it was really rough. I did it over lunch, so I'm sorry that it looks so crappy. And then not only did he do this, but he sent me another XAML file, which was a library of shapes all templated and set up for me. And I was like, well, what did you use? Oh, blend. Your putz? Blend. What do you do? Oh, blend. Oh, blend. I was trying to do everything in Notepad. Probably not a good idea. This was where I realized that, in this case, the developer doesn't equal designer. I'm a developer in the US. He's a designer in the UK. And we have an ocean between us, and that's just the way it's going to be. I'm not going to try to be what I am not. He was amazing to have pulled this off for me. I'll show you a little bit of information about that. Now, the blue slides, you may have seen this a little bit in some of the other presentations. The blue slides are meant to represent the future. Gray slides are what you can do now, and these are the future. Now, I had this whole thing about the future of WPF. Turns out that this talk is before tomorrow's keynote. Can't show you. But I can make the word lots look like WPF. And I can make it glow, and I can spin it around, and we can do this. So it's kind of like that, right? So feel good about that. And go see PC46, PC07, and these slides will be available to you. But there's a bunch of cool stuff coming in WPF 4.0, but unfortunately, I had to delete those. But I ported it to the Surface. And it took me about 4 hours. About 3 hours to read the SDK. Okay, well, it's about 3 hours to pound my head against the wall, and an hour to read the SDK, and then about 10 minutes to do it. It was really easy. And what happened was I went to Internology, which is one of the Surface partners, and you can see those Surfaces out in the partner area. I went to one of their parties, and he had a Surface there. And I had only been working on the Surface simulator. So I was like, oh, dude, pull out the USB key. Let's run the thing on the Surface. Works. Bam. The simulator emulated the Surface exactly, and we had an extra baby lying around. There was a baby at the party. This is Clemens Vaster's baby. He's one of the PMs at WCF. And boom, baby smash on a Surface. Couldn't believe it. Let's see if that was hard or not. Let's switch over to this other machine and learn a little bit about that. So this is another machine. This machine is running at a weird resolution. It's running at 1280 because the Surface simulator requires more resolution. And it's 32-bit. I'm going to bring up Visual Studio Express. Oops, activate. Looks like I need to activate. This is my 5th trial of Visual Studio Express. Six trials, and then I will register it. So I'm going to type in the Surface simulator. It's going to give me a little prompt about whether I'm running as administrator or not. And this is going to pop up. Hang on. Dun, 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 dun. And boom, I'm running a Surface, but I'm running it in an emulation mode here. So this is what's called attract mode. This is I want to touch it. It looks like water. It's water. So I can move my mouse around. We've got this little finger here. I can rotate the thingy here. That's the orientation of the finger, because Surface doesn't just know about where your finger is. It knows about the size of your finger. It knows if you're overweight or not. Just kidding. And it was like, yeah, your BMI is too high. And I was like, well, I've been sucking it in. So here's the cool part. Ready for this? Here I can click, hey, Surface, it's water. I can use 2 mice. There's my left finger, and there's my right finger. And I have a trackball, which I will run with my face. Huh? surface. It's the surface, people. So now I'm going to hit F5 inside of Visual Studio Express.
What'd you say?
And now, two mice. I can go and do my surface stuff. What am I looking up there? It's right here. Okay. Now, woo. I can pick them up. I can fling them around. Ooh. So we had this thing running on a surface. People can take 2 fingers. They can say, let's make them really big. And now it's still blinking, see? This is one of the great things about WPF is that all this animation was done by Felix. He originally gave me these static things. And he's like, I think that they need to have a little bit of a life. They need to blink occasionally and have a little bit of life of their own. I don't think about threading. I just think about this declarative markup. Porting this over to Surface was a joy. And I mean that seriously. It was a blast. One of the things also that's cool about the Surface is I can flip around. I can see all the other surfacey things. I'm going to hit I'm done, and I'm going to reboot the Surface here. And I'm going to hit the other side of the Surface, because sometimes you're on the other side of the table. All right? And then the Surface SDK integrates with WPF and understands what orientation things are in. I'll show you how we did that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this at a lunch session for Coding for Fun tomorrow. So you can check that out, a 45-minute lunch session, and I'm going to do about 15 minutes. So this integrates with the Surface SDK, and all I had to do was main window, make this a Surface window. Suddenly, main window derives from Surface window, and then we've got some new Surface things like auto orients on startup. Again, I've just been learning WPF for a little bit of a while. Baby Smash was an experiment. Baby Smash was an experiment of writing WPF the way that we would write WPF, people who don't really know WPF. I'm assuming you guys don't all know it. I wrote it wrong the first time on purpose. I wrote it like a WinForms app. And I put this on my blog, and I said, here's how I would write it. I drug buttons on there, and I have a code behind. I did all this kind of stuff. And now I'm slowly refactoring it. And we've put up on windowsclient.net, under the Learn tab, a Baby Smash Developer Center. So if you have kids or you're interested in playing with this, you can get this code. You get this on Codeplex, just like I did, and you can refactor this. You can learn WPF with me. If you're a WPF expert, pick a section, refactor it. If you're a WPF newbie, take a look at the progression of Baby Smash as we move through from ugly before to wonderful after. There's no end to the things that we're going to be able to do to make this application a lot cooler. The other thing that was interesting about the Surface SDK was they have the notion of contact. So contact is like a mouse down, except it's contact, contact, contact. There it is. Contact down. So there's no mouse, right? There's no mouse, there's no keyboard, there's only these contacts. So each time someone touches it, there's a contact. And you get all this information in this contact event arcs. You learn about the orientation of the finger, but you've also got all of WPF available to you. So the point here is that I didn't know I knew Surface already. It sounds like a silly thing to say, but it's really true. I had the general sense of how event handlers work. I'm getting a sense of how XAML works. I know things like object orientation and derivation. I went from deriving from window to deriving from Surface window, and then all these new attached events came along. Contact down, contact change, things like orientation. This was about a 4-hour operation. And that's a trivial application, but you get the idea. If you go over to the Geeks with Blogs booth in the expo hall, they've got a Surface, and they've got an application that they wrote. They know WPF. They just learned Surface. They were able to get a whole ping-pong application working and then blog registration application in a minimal amount of time. So I think that you should check out Surface. It's pretty exciting, actually. Let me switch away from here. We'll come back over there. All right. Now, the core is one of these things I'm going to talk about throughout the whole talk because there's core everywhere. It's something that we all understand. And some of the future things that are coming are things like multi-targeting, still being able to run the same IDE, being able to say, I want to run 3.5, I want to run 4.0, I want to run 2.0. Side by side with the same process, though, is pretty cool. So if I start thinking about maybe a plug-in model, I could have .NET 2.0 runtime and .NET 4.0 runtime living in the same process. And then, are you guys familiar with a thing called Spec Sharp? You guys heard about Spec Sharp a little bit? It's a Microsoft research project. Some of the things around Spec Sharp are coming into the core. And this is the notion of design by contract. If someone says, I'm going to have a method that takes a string, or a method that takes, like, let me see an example here. Here, int n at the top there. Example method takes an int. But there's an implied contract. This really has to take an int that's greater than 0. You could go like debug.assert, but we really need to know this stuff at compilation time. We need to be able to prove that this application is correct. We want to code by contract. These are enhancements that are going to fit nicely into C# and into VB that you're going to have in Dev in the next version of Visual Studio. In-process side-by-side is going to be cool because if you've ever tried to write like an Outlook add-in or an add-in for any application of size, remember when 1.1 and 2.0 came out, it was really kind of confusing for a couple of months there where it's like, well, what happened to my 1.1 plugin? Is it running under 2.0? Do I know what they have on their machine? We've formalized all of that so you can run the CLR2 and the CLR4 side-by-side in the same process. There's a hosting API. So I see that things like that Office and big applications are going to be able to understand whether or not an application works in one or the other. Now, it doesn't support 1x, but I don't think we feel too bad about that. But the idea that these things are going to live side by side in the same process and that there's a formal hosting model and a new activation policy that also is formalized as opposed in the sense that if someone has 4.0 on their machine but not 2.0, here's what's happened. So the whole matrix is very formal, and you'll be able to know predictably whether or not your add-in is going to work in this new world. A couple of other things that are cool in Core that you're probably seeing some sessions on are things like parallelism. I'm going to show a demo of parallelism if I get a chance. And then MEF. Who went to the MEF talk? You guys saw the MEF talk? I made babies. What's it? What? You're an application. I'm an application. Yeah. If you were the thing, and we did a little skit, and I was the application. I'll show you a MEF demo. I'm going to show you, let me see, I'm going to show you dynamic, I'll show you threading, and I'll show you MEF. These are some of the things that are going on in Core. And then these are deeper detail. Again, I can't go too deep here. This talk is over at 6:30, I think. Let's see if we can do some damage here. Let's switch over here. Let's look at MEF. So why would Baby Smash care about MEF? Let's go look at Baby MEF. It's a funny word, MEF. I don't know. Every time I say it, I just kind of laugh in my head. I don't think we're going to call it MEF. I think it's called System.Composition Model. This is an application that was worked on with Glenn and with Jason Olson. So the idea was that Baby Smash was cool, but simple. We needed extensibility. Now, we only did this in a couple of hours, but this is an example of what we can do with MEF. We wanted smash packs. So you could write your own smash pack, and then we could add it into the application. Now, ordinarily when you do this, you write code, and raise your hand if you've written this kind of code, for each file in directory plugins, load assembly, for each type in assembly. Does it implement this interface? It's just that kind of really awful rote code that tries to tighten up the relationship between what you want and what you have. The logical and the physical meet. They merge too much. They mingle. Ultimately, I say, I want to implement iSmashPack, and if anyone wants an iSmashPack, then it should just work. I don't want to think about the kind of ugly administrative details. So I've made a couple of smash packs, and we've got this observable collection. So this is Baby Smash proper. We've got this observable collection of smash packs. They implement iSmashPack provider. And then here's the import. This is the declaration that I'm going to be needing iSmashPack providers. It's just a declaration. No one's thinking about where this is going to come from yet. Then I've got a couple of smash packs, like the lame smash pack. And this one says, hey, I've got iSmashPack providers. Now, a lot of people will compare this kind of stuff to dependency injection in a version of control containers. But this is more of a formalization of a plugin extensibility model than it is something with IOC. And it's important to note that people like Hammett, who worked on Castle Windsor, which is one of the really popular IOC containers, works on this team. And this is also all, by the way, open source. So you've got to feel good about using MEF. So I get to go and say, I got and I need. And then we can bring them together a number of ways. There's this notion of a catalog. catalog, da, da, da. It's so fun to watch a man type. Da, da, da. And he misspells, doesn't know what he's doing. What? I paid for this? Oh my God. What kind of putts? Da, da, da. All right. So in application startup, we're going to compose this kind of catalog of all the stuff that we have available. We've got parts. We're going to compose those into a catalog. That's very intuitive language. Now, we can make a number of different catalogs. We can say, well, I'm going to have an attributed assembly part catalog. So go to this assembly and find all the things that have this attribute. But this directory part catalog is what's really, really interesting. You can say, go watch this directory. And not only can you say, go watch this directory, you can say, comma, watch directory. Literally, watch this directory. So I can run this application. Now this will be a debug version of Baby Smash. So let's see if I run it. It shouldn't go full screen if I do this right. Do. Baby Smash. Ooh, that's a cool sound.
What'd you say?
Okay, so I'm going to hit
Baby
Control
Smash,
Alt
right?
Options and pull this down. You've got the cool Smash Pack, which has faces, and the lame Smash Pack that doesn't have faces. Now I'm going to leave this dialog open and not be able to do anything because it's in front. You ever do this when you're like moving a window and you're like, Vista, your Z ordering is so, the illusion is so complete. Thanks, Vista. Now I'm in trouble. But I'm prepared because I made a batch file. Whoosh. That was the ninja move. Should have thought this one out ahead of time. Bam. Family Smash Pack. Batch file moved Family Smash Pack into the directory. And it shows up. Now, why? What was I doing? What's the trick there, Scott? There's something that you're not telling me. No, dude, there's not. It's so cool. There's an observable collection. Who's observing it? Whoever wants to observe it. And MEF knows about that. So it's why this is part of WPF. And this is what's cool about this. WPF had this thing called observable collection. They don't know MEF guys. They don't care. They don't know what they're doing. This is what's great. And this is why it's such a food court and why I like this. Then they just have to make sure that that collection is updated. I bound this combo box to the observable collection. It observed that it changed. MEF is handling the binding. I click on Family Smash Pack, close it up. And suddenly I've got pictures of the family in a separate Smash Pack. So now I'm like, okay, now I can do some damage with Baby Smash. Because I'm a micro ISV, I'm like, yes, extensibility is how I'm going to make money. I'm going to make money on this. Now, it's a free open source application, but the way I'm going to make money, volume. Yeah? Smash Packs. I'm going to charge him for the Smash Packs. I'm going to give him a few for free. Then I'm going to make a Smash Pack store. No. Ad-based? That's right. And then Clippy's going to go like, looks like you've got a baby. Yeah, would you like to buy some? That would be exquisitely evil. That little chunk of code right there, that was it. So when Glenn in his talk on MEF says that it makes extensibility fun, then it's right. It's just that easy. So now I can start thinking about the problem and not the implementation. So if you're thinking about doing plugins, this works with not just WPF, but it works with WinForms or console apps or whatever makes you happy. It's a really, really great way to formalize that extensibility model that you may have in your application. And it was fun to do. And I thank the guys for helping me out with that. And here's the new installer for Visual Studio 2010. I hang out with these guys, and we've got. You didn't know we actually have full-time clip art people. And when you pass by them, their teeth go ting because they're that good looking in person. Data. So this example of a massively multiplayer baby smash is going to have to use some data. Now we've got a number of options for us in today, because this is a today slide. We've got link to SQL, which lets us have kind of a one-to-one relationship with the database. What you get as objects is what you have in the database. And then we've got the entity framework, which has a little bit more of a layer of abstraction away. It's a much more formalized model, and it lets you use other databases. And then ADO.NET Data Services can sit on top of either of those things or on top of objects. And this is one of the things that I'm going to use. I want my Baby Smash application to phone home and send data to the mothership. I'll store it in the database with Entity Framework, and I'll use Astoria, formerly Astoria, now ADO.NET Data Services, to store this information in SQL 2008. Now, Astoria is pretty sweet. Who is using Astoria? Astoria people? A couple people? So REST and web services have been a really, really interesting world, because I kind of grew up in banking, and I was doing WS Star, and things were very message-based, and there was kind of formal federation and AWS security and all these kind of things. But getting data back from a database and just putting it in a list box or doing some fairly straightforward things, kind of Web 2.0 stuff, was a little more difficult. And then I said, well, there must be something wrong here, because someone's saying use WS Star. That would be things like WCF. And other people were saying, well, use REST, man. And the REST people talk like that. They're like, hey, man. We call them Restafarians. Yeah, dude, use REST. So for some of you who are saying, what is REST? It's called representational state transfer. It was actually a PhD thesis of a guy who formalized that we have these existing verbs in HTTP, and they map really nicely to CRUD. CRUD being create, read, update, and delete. Get's a get, post is a create, put is an update, and a delete is a delete. Why build enveloping around that? Well, that misses a number of the things that WS Star provides as far as security, formalized certificates, federation, addressing. But where would one start and where would one end? I might, on the client side, maybe using ASP.NET Ajax or jQuery, I want to pull some data out and put it in a combo or display it in a grid. I don't need WS Star to do something like that. That's a very lightweight experience. But on the back end, I might want to go and send information to a mainframe and transfer money from one place to the other. Then I want to use message transfers, and I want to do that in a much more formalized way. So it really, again, got into this food court idea. Sometimes you feel like eating something light. Sometimes you feel like you need something a little bit more heavy, do a little carbo loading for some real stuff. WCF and WS Star, the larger specifications, are important for that. But all I needed was to get a hold of my entity data model and push and pull data to and from the Baby Smash application. And I had this nice mapping to HTTP. Astoria, ADO.NET Data Services, respects all of those mappings. Now, the future. Entity Framework, which I'm going to show you in a moment, has some new things like POCO. You guys know what POCO means? Plain old CLR objects. Sometimes you hear some of the alpha geeks say, oh, yeah, we just use POCO, of course. And then you're like, yeah, POCO. Oh, yeah, it's POCO. Plain old CLR object. That came from POJO, plain old Java objects. People like things like POCO because it means you don't have to go and decorate your objects with all sorts of attributes, and they don't have to know too much about your application. So in Entity Framework 2, which you can learn about if you go see some of the talks on that, you're going to get things like that. You're going to get SQL methods, formalizing this relationship between what's available in the entity model and what's available in the database. And I'm going to show you this visually so it makes more sense. You get a number of other things like new stored procedure technology. You're going to get model-defined functions. Entity Framework is moving very, very quickly. Let me switch over to the demo to put some of this in context. Oh, actually, yeah. One of the things that's cool about ADO.NET Data Services version 2 is they got this thing called blob deferral. I built an application that would retrieve information, and some of that information included images. So I had like product image. And then when I did a get, I got this XML blob. And in that XML blob was the image is a base64 encoded string. So I got like product name, which is what I wanted to put in a combo box. And then I got blob, which I was just going to turn around and ask for again to put in an HTML image. So you can use this in a really efficient way by saying, don't give me the blobs, I'll come back for them later. which means that using ADO.NET Data Services in JavaScript becomes really, really clean. There's techniques to do this now in version 1, but it becomes even easier in version 2. And I've got examples of that on my blog, and you can check out the Astoria blog. So let's look at some smashy services and see how things are going to start looking. So this was baby Mef. Let's go over to this baby Smash and take a look at this entity model. So I built this service down here. It's an ADO.NET data service. I just said File New Web Application, and then I added the data service, and that shows up here. And this is actually WCF underneath it. It's really, really easy to build. All I had to say was, oops, clicked on the wrong one there. Where is this data coming from? This is a public class Smash data service, and I've got this Smash metrics container. So I want to build a reporting site that's going to get all the metrics from the babies so that I can effectively use your advertising idea. I'm taking that and patenting it, and I can effectively market to the babies. Isn't that just evil? No, I would never do that. You can also do things like setting access rules that are allowing you to look at the entities or not. Now, let's try to put this into context because I know it's getting a little complicated. I have a database. It's designed in with the physicality in mind. It is the storage. That's the physical database. Smash metrics store. I've got a Smash count, and I've got Smash records, which is a view. That's the physical aspects of the database. What Entity Framework lets you do is think about the logical types. So if the entity relationship is logical, it doesn't necessarily have to be one-to-one with what's going on in the database. So if you're asking yourself, like, what is the difference between Link to SQL and Entity Framework? With Link to SQL, if you have a products table, you're going to get a products class. Products table class name, column changes, then you're going to have to do a little bit of work if you're going to keep that change from breaking code. Ultimately, if things really change, like if products, the table becomes multiple tables, product address and product inventory, things are going to ripple up. Link to SQL is a one-to-one relationship. Entity Framework isn't. It's an object relational mapper that lets you map the physicality of the database to logical entities. So when I'm looking at this model here, these are the logical objects that I'm thinking about. And then I can go into the mapper and decide what they map to. Now here I've just done it one-to-one. But for example, if it was char in the database, I could make it character here. If it was last name in the database and I wanted surname. Those are basic examples. A more interesting example that would really show the power of this are some of the examples you'll see in the other sessions is when they'll take something like the AdventureWorks database, where we think as the programmer, I want a customer object. But the database guy wants customers' addresses and customer height and customer orders and all those things spread out. You really want to normalize the database. We want to map those things to that logical object. And if the database changes, I want to have some control over whether or not I expose that to the developer. Secondarily, the entity model doesn't actually know whether it's SQL Server or Oracle or MySQL or whatever in the back end. So not only do you get a layer of abstraction between your objects and the physicality of your database, but you also get the choice of database that you use. So that's one of the things that's really cool about the entity framework, the entity data model. Now I keep saying entity data model because this EDMX file is what represents that. This entity data file generated some objects which I then handed to the ADO.NET data services. So we got some services and they know about objects. And the objects don't know about anything. And then the entity framework handles talking to the database. So let me show you what this looks like, and hopefully it'll become clear, because I know it can be a little tricky to visualize. Let's bring up IE here, and we'll take a look at that service endpoint. Going too slow. There we go. So here's a service endpoint. And notice that it's Atom. This is actually just like a feed. This is like an RSS feed. So I can see that someone has pressed A once. Now, I thought this was hilarious, because I've just used SQL Server 2008, the entity framework, Astoria, to bring back like the 800K of angle brackets in XML, with including namespaces. And so I could tell you that someone pressed A once. And I was like, darn it, this is not a Northwind demo, and I'm doing things my way, and I think that this works. Now, of course, this is not the way that you would ordinarily do something like this, but it makes the point. And one of the reasons that I picked Baby Smash as the idea is that sometimes people will show you health records or insurance, stuff like that, but we don't always work in those industries. But you can see how you would start returning information from whatever industry that you happen to work in. I wanted to remove Northwind from the equation. Now I can pull that information back. I can put new records. I can update new records. I can delete them, all using and embracing HTTP. Underneath of Astoria is WCF, which is really cool. So if you're familiar with WCF already, then ADO.NET Data Service is going to feel really comfortable to you. It's going to make a lot of sense. And as a client programmer, it's just going to look like HTTP GETs. So the ASP.NET folks that are on your team who don't know about WCF don't have to. They're just pulling back angle brackets. And adding these services is really easy. It's just right-click, add service reference. And it's going to go and generate that stuff for you. But if you don't want Visual Studio to lie to you, if you don't want that generated stuff, these are just HTTP calls. So you can make those calls yourself. You can call it with MS Ajax or whatever makes you happy, because it's all REST, using some of the new syndication stuff. Now, some of the new stuff that's going on, if you take a look at some of the talks on Windows Workflow, they've got these activities and runtime and tooling to make workflows work better. Now, why would I care about workflow? Well, maybe not for babies, but possibly. There's a lot of asynchronous work that babies do. I guess poop is fairly persistent. But ultimately, if I'm going to create my dream of Baby Smash line of business, then workflow is going to be a fundamental part of that. So I would encourage you to check out those talks. Now, I needed Surface. I got Surface. I used my WPF skills. I wanted WPF. I knew how to do that already. I'm doing this still all in C#. How can I get mobile working and use all of these things at the same time? Well, let's see. I could use Silverlight Mobile. And then I can find the piece of paper that tells me the code for this, guys. Beep, boop, ba, boop, ba, boop, ba. So here is this phone. Right here. Uh-oh. Boo-boo. Okay, don't piss off the phone, everybody. Don't breathe. Da, da, da. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. Da, not connected. Never use a device in a demo because it will always hurt you. Pop, pop, pop. You're my friend. You're my friend. Windows Mobile. Hello. Computer. Whoosh. 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 Wait for it. Now I can give my $400 Windows Mobile phone in Chrome to my baby, who can smash away on it. That's awesome. Silverlight 2, mobile, C#. Talk to the mobile team. Hey, man, I'm trying to do this. I don't know anything about mobile. Oh, well, what's your application? Well, I wrote in WPF. Okay. Did you port it to Silverlight? Yeah, I ported it to Silverlight. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, just send me your application. No, dude, I don't want to take your time. PDC. No, take me your application. And it was just like the relationship with the designer, right? It was like, boom, whoosh, comes back in like an hour. How did you do it? How did you do it? Oh, yeah, I just, converted it, boom. Did you have to change anything? No, because you got the whole of Silverlight. So, it's all right there. Did you change it to a different language? Is this like compact framework? No, it's Silverlight 2. You C# code, it kind of works on mobile. Brain exploded at this point. because I knew they were doing Silverlight Mobile, but I didn't really believe them. And he's like, yeah, not a problem. Look, they're still freaking blinking. They're still blinking. Blew me away. So cool. He's got the full of. Love it, love it, love it. So when I said I don't know mobile, he was like, no, you know this already. You know this already. And that was the message that I kind of taught myself while I was going through this process, is that, well, I know C#, I know the base class library, I know the fundamentals, right? I know collections, I know events. And as I'm going through this process, I'm realizing I know more than I thought. I learned WPF, I'm learning Silverlight, I'm able to get things on mobile, I've got things on the Surface, and at this point I've only put a couple of days' work in this. So thank you very much to the mobile guys on how to set that up for me. Couldn't believe it. You can learn more about that in their mobile session, PC10. Get the details on Silverlight 2 for mobile. Is it real, or was that all just an AVI and I just played a video? It's coolness. It's not 4 popped collars cool, but it's pretty cool. All right. Now, as I said before, the core is the center of this universe. The core is something that you can use everywhere. So you get these improvements in the core, and you can use it in all of your things. This is an evolution. You can use things like parallel programming. So this is an example where we're doing some matrix multiplication. This is just complicated for loops. You shouldn't look at that and say, how can I make this not for a loop? Because there are some calculations that just have to be that way. They are intensive. But watch parallel for. Suddenly, my for loop can be across multiple processors. It's literally just that easy. Boom, parallel for. That's just one example of the stuff that's going on in the parallel library. So you may have code already that that you could make your life easier if you just moved over to some of the parallel constructs. So let's see some massively parallel babies. Okay, babies. Now, this machine is a laptop, and it's a dual core. And it's important to point that out because I would get way better. This would be a much more impressive demo on like a quad core machine. So just said that, but FYI. So let's look at the baby. Now I'm going to click in on a hue, like an area of this screen here, and then it's going to have to walk around and say, well, I'm going to click on blue, and it's going to look around, and anything that's not blue, it's going to make black and white. It's very, very computationally intensive. It's going to go for each row, for each pixel. So we'll click in the blue area, and we'll say 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. This is how we do all of our calculations. 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9. Black and white, except now we've got that kind of cool, children's baby photographer thing. So we just put a baby photographer out of business. So now I'm going to click this checkbox and turn parallelism on. And all this is doing is taking a for loop and making it a parallel for loop. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6. What was it before? 10? Now, it was between 6 and 10. Now, why wasn't it exactly 50% faster? Well, because that's just not how parallelism works. But it was faster. And if it was on a quad proc machine or an 8 proc machine, it would get that much faster. You have control with these parallel libraries of saying, well, I'm going to use 2 CPUs out of the 4. I'm going to use them all. Or you can just say, just work it out. I was slow before, and I'm fast today. This is part of one of the themes that you're going to hear throughout all of these different libraries is trying to make the difficult easier through basic kind of declarative constructs. And abstracting away the complexities of something like threading, again, this physical details of how you're going to work this out and do it the most effective way with my intent. It's all about expressing programmer intent as clearly as possible. And parallel for is a pretty clear way of expressing one's intent. There's massively parallel babies. Now, on the web side, there's a bunch of different stuff, and we'll only have a little bit of time to talk about them. But you can see Scott Hunter's future session in TL54 and get a lot of details. Cafeteria plan, again, we've got web forms, we've got MVC, we've got Ajax. You guys heard about the jQuery thing, right? jQuery is inside of the MVC beta. It's shipping. We're actually shipping jQuery with us. And then just a few hours ago, if you go up, you can see that the jQuery IntelliSense library for Visual Studio is now live on the jQuery site. Not on the Microsoft site, but the jQuery site. Because we're not forking jQuery, we're contributing to jQuery. So now you can get IntelliSense for jQuery as an officially supported thing. Very, very cool stuff, jQuery. Silverlight 2. And hybrids are welcome. This is a really important thing, the notion of hybrid applications. Sometimes when you say file new application, there's this sense of there's a fork in the road. What can I do? I have this or that, and then that's it. That's like, you come out of college and you can either go blue collar or white collar. Life isn't that complicated. We change careers. Applications can be hybrids. You can have a web forms app that is also an MVC app and a dynamic data app. And that maybe isn't as clear as it could be right now, but it's important to note that ASP.NET is bigger than just web forms. Now, in the future side, web forms 4.0 is going to give you a lot more control over your HTML. You'll be able to set what your client IDs are, and you're going to hear all sorts of details in Scott Hunter's ASP.NET 4.0 session. I want to talk a little bit about charting in just a second. And then some of the Silverlight toolkit stuff that we're going to hear about tomorrow at the keynote. I'll see if I can sneak in a demo of that. This is something I want to make the point about is that ASP.NET is greater than web forms. You can mix and match. You guys are familiar with Codeplex.com, right? Hybrid application. It is both web forms and MVC. If you have an existing web forms application, and maybe there's a section that would benefit from the MVC pattern, you don't have to have just Indian food at the food court. You can mix it up. Have taco here and a little bit there. It is a cafeteria plan. And that's really an important message to try to get out. Have a little Ajax and a little dynamic data. Let's take a look at some reporting. All right. Yeah. My boss is like there, so we're not going to do that joke. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and need to have you stay late today. Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Let's take a look at how much time do we have? Let's look at this. Here's a chart. This is a chart that is written in 2003. It's a control. It's a 1.1 control, and I put on my system, and it's looking at the database. Remember how we said that A had 1, and so far someone has pushed S once, and now I've got a timer. It's going. It's very sophisticated. Welcome to 1996. But I wanted to point that out because this is an old thing working in a new world. I was pretty impressed that this 1.1 application just worked under 3.5 and I didn't have to really sweat it. Oh. Okay, so let's look at a more sophisticated chart and see if we can make reporting a little bit more interesting. How about this one? So this is some charting that is coming in ASP.NET 4.0. These are some charts that we acquired a company and we've expanded these charts. So now I've got the same data and in a donut because babies like donuts. And I can go now into another window and I will go to the Silverlight version of Baby Smash. Da, da, da. And I want to type some stuff.
Babies.
Okay, so I'm in Silverlight now, not in WPF. I'll come over here and I'll hit refresh. And now it's curvy. So we're pulling this information back. And then this, and you've got a really rich design time experience for these controls. I can take a look at those controls, and let's look at them in a split view. You can take a look at the properties and check out some things like series. These are like full-on supercharts, all the kind of things. It's like Excel, except you can use it in ASP.NET. All the kind of binding that you want. In this example, I just took an entity data model control, because now we're talking about dragging a control on the page, dragging a chart on the page, hooking it up, poof, boom. That classic productive line of business web form stuff that you just can't really do in things like an MVC. Took me 5 minutes, and it's all in markup. Drag these things over, hook it up to an entity data model, and then it just worked. And I'll show you what that markup looked like. There's all sorts of options and multiple layers of configurability for these things. And that's actually, even though it shows 2 charts, we've actually got 1 chart and 2 chart areas. It's incredibly configurable. We see ASP:chart. We pull the series character and count for X values and Y values. And then another chart area down here, which is Madonut. And you've got stuff like inclination and light style and perspective, all that kind of crazy stuff that you might want to do with a chart. All done in markup. But you saw that I can do this stuff using the designer. I don't have to know this markup. It's that web forms productivity model that we're familiar with. And then, because I was using the entity framework, I've got full control with a data source control. You've used things like the link to SQL data source, the object data source, the entity data source, and I'm just pulling these count and character out of the database. This stuff is running up on my web server right now. This is a lot more advanced than the 1.1 stuff that we saw before. It's a lot easier to program to, and you could see yourself putting together a fairly straightforward administrative application in minimal effort. Now, before we move on, I'm going to go up real quick to Twitter, because we're going to get ready to try to do something that will either be cool or crash many people's computers. Okay, Twitter folks. You guys might want to get your laptops open and up and on the wireless network if you're interested in participating in this experiment. Bring up a browser and get ready. I'm going to say, do me a favor at PDC 2008 and go visit tinyurl.com/bigdemo and await further instructions. Mwahaha. Cool. So we'll see if anybody's on Twitter. So I like this charting, but for my needs, I wanted something that was a little bit more active. This wasn't quite what I was looking for. I wanted something that was a little more advanced. I wanted to bring in some Silverlight. Let's move forward a little bit here. And I wanted some active regions. I wanted to bring in some things like some mapping. So this is how you would talk to like a virtual Earth map if you were writing C# code today and you were going against a dynamic object model. So we're using the Silverlight bridge to talk to this virtual Earth thing. And you may have seen code like this. Has anyone ever written code to talk to Word or Excel, right? This is very kind of iDispatchy code. Why does it have to be done like this? .invoke. Because these are dynamic objects. We don't have that ability to know about these points within the application. So this is how you would talk to a map, for example, if you were going to add mapping to your application. But one of the core things that you can learn about in these sessions here is the addition of this dynamic keyword, which is then making what comes back out of this virtual Earth object model dynamic. We're saying to the compiler, lay off for a second. These are dynamic calls. When you say set title, you really mean invoke set title. That way the compiler is not going to complain about those methods not existing. Suddenly, writing to something dynamic like this map control that I'm going to show you inside of something like Silverlight becomes really, really easy. You've probably heard about some of this stuff in Anders' talks, and you can learn more about this in detail at those talks. So let's get our laptops together. We're going to go to tinyurl.com/bigdemo. Let's see if anybody on Twitter likes me. What about mobile phones? Thank you, Sandra. Thank you in the front row. No, you can't have that. I'm ready and awaiting instructions. Cool, good luck. You're going to need it. Let's take a look here. I want, everybody got this open? A couple people raise your hands if you got this open. All right, let's go to here. Okay, I need you to start Turn up your volume, people. It's no fun if I can't hear the babies. It's already out on Twitter. They're smashing across the nation. More Z's. More Z's. Respect the Z. There we go. There we go. In an election year, it feels so great to just watch these things. And I can just kind of move and put Michigan in my pocket. So here I went from an ASP.NET 1.1 old-style chart generation to an ASP.NET control. And these are Silverlight charts. You're going to learn more about these tomorrow's keynote. You're going to see Scott Guthrie talk about these. This is making a client-side call where? To what part of my application? What's that? To the entity framework, back to the Astoria endpoint. I'm reusing all that information in many, many ways. I can pull it out of an entity data source. I can pull it out via REST using ADO.NET Data Services. I can use JavaScript to pull information out and put it on a map. And I can pull stuff back and plot inside of a chart dynamically. Let's go back and tell the... Oh, thank you very much. Now we see if we can break it here. See if the Twitter... Smash my minions. Smash the letters as if your baby depended on it. PDC 2008. The anti-micro... We need a manual? Someone wants a manual for the application? Like the fact that Baby Smash now needs a manual is a problem. Let's see what they're gonna do. Oh wow, A is winning at 2,500. So we're gonna see if we can break this application. By the way, I've never actually tested this, so it was kind of taking a little bit of a risk if this was going to crash the servers. I'm going to go and do a series of articles about this whole experience. It was hacked together in about 4 days. I'm not an expert on Entity Framework. I'm not an expert on Astoria. I'm not an expert on Silverlight. But I know C#, I know the base class library, and I'm learning WPF. I was able to port to Silverlight in about a day and a half with the help of a friend of mine named Grant Archibald from New Zealand. I was able to move it over to the Surface by just reading the manual and using a simulator. Did that in about 4 hours. The Astoria stuff made sense, not because I understood ADO.NET Data Services, because I got HTTP. And I was able to make these gets. And I was like, oh, it's angle brackets. It's bringing that stuff back. Because the tooling allowed me to say things like add service reference. And I could see this stuff appear. It was literally as easy as going into my application here and saying add service reference and discover, finding the service, opening it up, and then suddenly seeing that this was available or that was available. But when I wanted to do this stuff in JavaScript, I just used a dataservice.js file, and I was able to pull that information out. Because the data was all transparent. These things all got along. Suddenly, my food court is putting together a pretty decent little meal. OK, the A people need to chill. Somebody is freaking out with A. OK, A people, I get it. Try Q. PDC 2008. Do you ever say that when you're twittering, that you just say the hash code kind of quietly to yourself? Okay, people, I get it. Try Q. PDC 2008. This guy's like, and? Because a lot of times it just shows up and it says, boop, gray area. We are the A people. Damn, coding horror. So, so Jeff Atwood is crushing us. I knew he was going to take me down. Where are the people in the overflow room? Damn you, Atwood! Ah! The coding horror, A people. Oh, no. Yes, J is coming up. J is coming up. Oh, my God. Evil, evil man. All right. Now they're retweeting it, and soon my blog will be taken out. All right. So what did we do? We took the WPF application. We moved it over to Silverlight. There were some things that I couldn't do because Silverlight is a subset. There were some of the animations that I couldn't do, some of the hardware acceleration stuff that you can do in WPF you can't do in Silverlight. This isn't necessarily, in my mind, a limitation of Silverlight as it is an example of if I can do really cool hardware-accelerated 3D stuff, then I probably want to do it on the Windows platform using WPF. But in this example, I found a happy medium. I couldn't do some of the animations, but I was able to pull it off in Silverlight and then take it directly to the mobile phone. The Surface was a joy to write. If you ever have an opportunity to use a Surface or any other devices that use that SDK, it is a blast. And the Surface simulator with multiple mice looks just like a Surface, acts just like a Surface, and I was able to get it working on a machine within a few minutes. We called back to our ADO.NET data service. The reporting site was actually a hybrid, both web forms and MVC. And again, I'm going to try to polish these things and do a series of articles. And I would really encourage you guys to take a look at this site, windowsclient.net. Windowsclient.net is the official WPF and WinForms site. Learn WPF with Baby Smash. You can just hit Learn, and you've got all sorts of videos and labs. One of those things is Baby Smash. And under here, you can get the source for Baby Smash. You can run, you can contribute, you can see the articles that we've done, the videos. But more importantly, and where I want to see your names, is over here. I want to see people like Grant Archibald and Jason Kemp who have taken Baby Smash and made it better. We've got a number of people working on this to make it better, and you don't necessarily even have to contribute and work on the same thing. One lady has taken it and is working with her disabled nephew, and she's added a touch keyboard on screen so he can use this as a way to learn to read. And she doesn't have to bring that code back, but she's already doing a series of blog posts about how she's learning WPF. And you don't have to be good at WPF to do really cool stuff with it. And then if we compile all of these patterns, people like Jason Kemp, who will actually take things like redoing the options dialog in Baby Smash. And he takes my crappy code and he made it better. And then we can bring that pattern and we can see, oh, here's how it would have been done in the old days. And then Jason codes via subtraction. He removed like 50 lines of code and used data binding instead, made my application simpler, more robust, and taught me how to do something like data binding in an options dialog in WPF. So I really encourage you guys to get involved. And if you don't have a baby, get one, because they are a hoot. They are a hoot. We've got these posters here. We've got posters there. If we run out of posters, we've got them at the AW booth. Remember, this is the food court universe here, and I kind of think they look like Baby Smash things, so we'll make them dance. And I want to very formally show some pictures of cats. Before you fill out your evaluations, check out the progress bar cat. And a big thank to these members of the community for helping me pull this off in about a week and a half. Thank you to the people on Twitter. I apologize to the people in overflow rooms A through J who didn't get to hang out with us here, and the folks at Surface. You can see this on a Surface if you go down into the Expo Center and turn to the right. It's not the hands-on lab surfaces, but the other surfaces. Baby Smash is on there. Or at the Geeks with Blogs booth. You can play with it, and you can talk to those guys about what Surface development is like. They've got Baby Smash sitting on a Surface. Fill out your evaluations, please, and then we're going to have the recording of this session available any minute now at microsoftpdc.com. Thank you very much.